picture this. You're sitting in a room at Sotheby's.
Right, surrounded by the wealthiest art collectors in the world.
Exactly. And a painting has just sold for over £1,000,000. The hammer drops. Everyone is clapping.
This is a huge moment.
And then a hidden alarm suddenly goes off inside the frame. And the painting literally starts shredding itself in front of everyone.
Just sliding out the bottom in strips.
Yeah. It was designed to be like the ultimate middle finger to the art establishment. And here's the kicker. The establishment authenticated the shredded remains. And eventually, they multiplied its price tag by 18.
I mean, it's the defining paradox of modern art, isn't it? The more aggressively a creator attacks the system of capitalism, the more desperate that same system becomes to monetize the attack.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're taking you on a journey to unpack this exact paradox. We've got this really comprehensive stack of source material tracing the encyclopedic history of the British street artist known as Banksy.
Right, going all the way from the Bristol underground scene in the 1990s right up to his latest legal battles and those controversial London murals in late 2025.
Our mission today for you listening is to figure out how an anonymous, illegal street artist, someone who openly mocks capitalism, somehow became one of the most highly valued contemporary artists on the planet.
Yeah, and the mechanics of how he achieved this and, frankly, how the market reacted it reveals more about our society's relationship with value and law and rebellion than, like, almost any other cultural phenomenon of the last 30 years.
Now, just a quick heads up before we really get into it. Banksy's art touches on some incredibly charged global politics.
Very heavily.
Yeah, we're talking the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, UK general elections, the war in Ukraine, and, harsh critiques of the justice system. So we need to explicitly state that our job today isn't to take sides or endorse any specific left-wing or right-wing views.
Exactly. We're keeping the lens strictly on the cultural and economic mechanics, just impartially unpacking the ideas contained in the artwork and the historical record.
Okay, so let's unpack this. To understand how you get to £1,000,000 prank at Sotheby's, you kind of have to start with the practical realities of being a graffiti artist back in the 1990s.
Yeah, the Bristol underground scene.
Right. Banksy was part of this group called the Dry Bread Z crew, and he was pulling inspiration from local legends like 3D.
Oh, the guy who later founded the band Massive Attack.
That's the one. But the defining feature of Banksy's art, the stencil, it didn't start as some grand artistic statement, did it?
No, not at all. It was a literal survival tactic.
Yeah.
Because, freehand spray painting takes time, and time is the one luxury an illegal street artist just doesn't have.
Right.
The origin story here is actually intensely pragmatic. He was out painting a train, the police arrived, and he was forced to dive under a rubbish lorry to hide.
Wait, like a garbage truck?
Yeah. He was stuck under there for hours, totally covered in engine oil. And while he's hiding, he looks up and notices the stenciled serial number on the bottom of the truck.
Oh, wow.
And it just hits him. If he pre-cuts a detailed image into cardboard at home, he could execute this complex, multi-layered piece on a wall in seconds.
It's essentially the hit and run of the art world.
That is exactly what it is.
You do all the meticulous planning and safety, and the execution is just a sudden flash. But, I have to ask, if the thrill of graffiti is partly the physical risk, the performance of doing it live, does removing that freehand element change the nature of the rebellion?
Well, it shifts the entire focus.
Yeah.
It goes from the performance of the artist to the message of the image itself. Traditional tagging is often about the artist saying, "I was here." But stenciling basically removes the hand of the artist entirely.
Which lets him work faster.
So much faster. He became incredibly prolific across cities, and that sheer volume is what built the global myth. Which naturally is what sparked the decades-long obsession with uncovering his actual identity.
Right, because everyone always wants to pull the mask off.
Human nature, yeah.
And we do have a few rare physical descriptions from the early days in the source material, like this 2003 Guardian interview where a journalist actually met him face-to-face.
Oh, right.
Wait.
Described him as a white 28-year-old, scruffy casual, wearing jeans, a T-shirt, a silver chain.
And a silver tooth.
Yeah. The silver tooth.
There's also this rediscovered 2003 BBC audio interview where he explicitly says his first name is Robbie.
But eventually, science got involved.
Science!
Yeah, criminologists and researchers at Queen Mary University. In 2016, they applied a statistical algorithm to his work known as geographic profiling.
Wait, isn't that what they use for, like serial killers?
Exactly. It's the exact spatial analysis used to hunt serial criminals. Investigators take the locations of a series of crimes, or murals in this case, and mathematically calculate the likely anchor points, like a home or a
Oh,
workplace.
that's fascinating.
And when they overlaid Banksy's artwork locations in Bristol and London with the known addresses, local pubs, and football pitches associated with a man named Robin Gunningham, the hotspots matched perfectly.
Wow. And add to that, the sources mention a major 2026 Reuters investigation that points to a 2000 arrest in New York.
Right, the vandalized billboard.
Yeah. An act previously claimed by Banksy's old agent.
Hmm.
And Reuters found a signed confession for that exact incident linked to Gunningham.
But his team still fiercely maintains the anonymity
Mm-hmm.
because the mask is the whole point. And, because the stencil gave him speed, it gave him the cover to go much bigger than just street corners. He started weaponizing the context of institutions against themselves.
Like the museum infiltrations.
Oh, those were brilliant.
Yeah.
That became his early signature. He would physically smuggle his own subverted art into places like the MoMA and the Met
Just walk right in.
and attach it to the walls alongside historic masterpieces.
I mean, imagine you're walking through the British Museum in 2005. You're looking at all these ancient artifacts, and there's a piece of rock that looks like a primitive cave painting.
Except it depicts a human figure pushing a modern supermarket shopping trolley.
Yes. He called it Peckham Rock. Stuck it on the wall, and the museum staff didn't notice for days.
Because he was exposing a cognitive vulnerability in how we consume culture. If an object is framed and hung in a prestigious museum, we just automatically assume it holds immense historical value.
Right. We don't even question it.
By planting his own work, he proved that institutional authority is surprisingly easy to manipulate. And his culture jamming wasn't limited to museums either.
No, he went after mass consumerism directly. Like in 2006, he and the producer Danger Mouse remixed Paris Hilton's debut album.
Oh, the fake CDs.
Yeah, they altered the cover art to show her topless, replaced the music with tracks mocking her, and then somehow managed to sneak 500 of these fake CDs onto the shelves of 48 different UK record stores.
And customers actually bought them before the stores even caught on.
It's just wild. He also printed thousands of spoof 10-pound notes, swapped the Queen's head for Princess Diana, changed the text to Banksy of England, and literally threw wads of cash into festival crowds.
Which all culminated in his 2006 barely legal exhibition in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It was a major turning point.
That's the one with the elephant, right?
Yeah. He staged this massive vandalized warehouse show that featured, among other things, a live elephant painted in a pink and gold floral wallpaper pattern to highlight world poverty.
Which obviously infuriated animal rights groups, even though the owners claimed the elephant was used to theatrical makeup. But I think the bigger shock was who actually showed up to buy the art.
Journalists coined it the Banksy effect. Suddenly, Hollywood celebrities like Christina Aguilera were buying his canvases for tens of thousands of pounds. Shortly after, a set of Kate Moss prints sold at Sotheby's for over $50,000.
It's like the auction prices just totally decoupled from reality and started skyrocketing.
Exactly.
But wait, hold on. I'm genuinely a bit confused by his reaction to all this because I want to push back on his whole anti-establishment narrative for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
He famously says graffiti is underclass revenge, but as his prices soared, he set up a company called Pest Control.
Right, his official authentication agency.
Yeah. So if his work is a pure critique of consumerism and the elite art world, why create a bespoke corporate authentication board? I mean, isn't he just acting like a CEO protecting his market share?
Well, it looks like pure hypocrisy on the surface, I grant you that. But the mechanics of the street art market actually force his hand. Street artists are incredibly vulnerable to exploitation.
Oh, so.
Opportunists will literally take chainsaws to public walls, cut out his stenciled plaster, and sell it at auction houses for hundreds of thousands of dollars completely against his will.
Wow. Literally stealing the wall.
Exactly. So pest control functions as a regulatory choke point. By refusing to authenticate pieces that were ripped from public streets, he effectively destroys their resale value at major auction houses.
Oh, I see.
It's really his only method of retaining autonomy over what is legitimately his private artwork and what is stolen public property.
Okay, that makes sense. But even with pest control, the tension between his anti-capitalist messaging and the soaring financial value of his gallery art was like reaching a breaking point.
Oh, absolutely. The elite were buying his work just to show off.
So he needed a way to completely sabotage the commodification of his art in real time. Which brings us back to October 2018 at Sotheby's in London.
The shredding of girl with balloon.
Right. Put yourself back in that auction room. The bidding is furious. It finally hammers down at just over £1 million. And the second the gavel hits, the alarm rings out from inside that thick, ornate, Victorian-style frame.
Because he had secretly built a mechanical shredder into the frame years earlier, specifically lying in wait for the day it might be put up for auction.
That is so patient.
He later released a video showing the construction. He quoted the anarchist philosopher Mikhail Bakunin saying, "The urge to destroy is also a creative urge."
Though famously, the mechanism actually jammed, right? Like he meant for the whole canvas to drop through and be ruined, but it stopped halfway.
The malfunction was accidental, yeah. But it became the catalyst for the ultimate irony. The buyer, an unnamed European woman, was initially shocked, but she quickly realized the historical weight of the moment.
She decided to keep it.
Exactly. Pest Control authenticated this newly destroyed object and officially renamed it Love is in the Bin. They argued he didn't destroy an artwork. He created a new one live, mid-auction.
And the financial result is what just completely breaks my brain. That exact same partially shredded canvas went back up for auction in 2021, and it sold for £18.5 million.
Staggering.
It's like trying to protest the banking system by setting a $1 bill on fire, but the ashes magically transform into a $100 bill. What does this actually say about the contemporary art market? Can they just consume and monetize their own mockery?
That's exactly it. The market is entirely impervious to critique from within. In the highest echelons of the art world, purchasing Banksy's anti-capitalist work becomes the ultimate capitalist flex.
Wait, how is it a flex?
Because a billionaire buying a piece that explicitly mocks billionaires is signaling to the world that they are so financially secure and so untouchable in their status that they can literally afford to purchase and display their own critique. We saw the exact same dynamic in 2019 with his massive painting, Devolved Parliament. It depicts the UK House of Commons populated entirely by chimpanzees.
Right.
And it sold for almost £10 million. The harder he punches the establishment, the more the establishment pays to own the glove.
Okay, but while the art market was totally thrilled to monetize his anonymity and his stunts, the legal system was a completely different story.
Yes, the law is not so easily amused.
No. The very secrecy that protected him from the police began to dismantle his control over his own intellectual property.
This is where his ethos collides violently with international law. There was a greeting card company called Full Color Black, and they wanted to use one of his most famous images, the flower thrower.
That's the one showing a masked protester winding up to throw a bouquet of flowers instead of a Molotov cocktail, right?
That's the one.
Wait, I need you to break this down for me. If he painted the flower thrower, he owns it. Why doesn't he just copyright it? I know he famously wrote "Copyright is for losers" in one of his books, but surely his lawyers know better. What is the actual legal difference here for an anonymous artist?
Well, copyright law inherently requires establishing the identity of the author. It protects the specific expression of an idea by a specific person for a set period after their death.
Okay.
So if Banksy wants to claim copyright infringement in court, he has to reveal his real name to prove he is the original creator. Since he absolutely refuses to do that, copyright is off the table.
So his lawyers tried to use trademark law instead.
Precisely. A trademark is different. It protects a brand or a logo used in commerce to distinguish goods. You don't necessarily have to reveal the personal identity of the artist to hold a corporate trademark.
Sounds like a perfect loophole.
It would be, but there's a massive catch. Trademark law requires you to actually use the mark in trade. You have to be actively selling products with that image on it. Otherwise, you lose the monopoly over the mark.
Which forced him into another wild, reluctant stunt.
Yes.
In 2019, purely on the advice of his legal team, Banksy opened a pop-up shop in Croydon, South London. He called it Gross Domestic Product.
A great name.
Right. But he didn't even try to hide his motives. He openly stated he was only opening the shop to sell branded merchandise to fulfill the legal requirement to defend his trademark from that greeting card company.
And the European Union Intellectual Property Office did not find it amusing at all.
I can imagine.
In a landmark 2020 ruling, they invalidated his trademark. The judges ruled that filing for a trademark and opening a shop purely to circumvent the law without a genuine intent to engage in honest commercial trade constituted bad faith.
They literally quoted his "copyright is for losers" line against him in the legal ruling.
He did. They weaponized his own philosophy right back at him.
Really?
But the most damaging part of the ruling targeted his anonymity. The court explicitly noted that legal rights and monopolies cannot be endlessly attributed to an unidentifiable entity.
The system demands a name.
It demands a name.
Think about the irony here. He built a global empire by illegally spray painting private property, breaking the rules of ownership. But the second he needed the rules of intellectual property to protect his empire, the system rejected him because he wouldn't play along.
Exactly. When you amass that level of cultural and financial capital outside the system inevitably demands engagement on its own terms, and this vulnerability hasn't gone away.
Right, the sources mentioned this exact issue forced a highly anticipated tribunal at the UK's Intellectual Property Office in February 2025.
Yeah, it pushed his legal team into the incredibly rare position of having to argue in public to defend his assets.
So you have a situation where this artist is generating tens of millions of pounds in galleries while fighting massive corporate boardroom battles over trademarks. You'd assume he'd just retire to a studio and become a full-time CEO.
But moving into the 2020s, he never abandoned the street.
Not at all. He continues to use raw public walls for incredibly direct, high-stakes political commentary.
His global footprint over the last few years has been immense. He financed the walled-off hotel in Bethlehem, designing it so the rooms looked directly onto the separation barrier.
Yeah.
He used his own money to buy a Mediterranean rescue boat, painted it bright pink, named it the Louise Michel, and sent it to save refugees at sea.
And in 2022, he traveled into war-torn Ukraine, painting murals on the sides of bombed-out residential buildings.
Including that powerful image of a young boy throwing a man resembling Vladimir Putin in a judo match.
Yeah, that was striking. And his recent work back in the UK has been relentless. In March 2024, a mural appeared on St. Patrick's Day in London. He sprayed a massive blast of green paint on a wall directly behind a severely pruned tree.
So when you stood at the right angle, the paint on the wall looked like the missing foliage of the tree.
He followed that up in August 2024 with a viral series of animal silhouettes popping up across London day after day.
But the real friction point hit in late 2025. In September, a mural appeared directly on the side of the Royal Courts of Justice in London.
Oh, this was a big one.
Yeah, it depicted a protester being beaten with a gavel by a judge. Given the context of recent protests and legal crackdowns in the UK, place that image on that specific building was an incredibly provocative escalation.
And the reaction from the authorities was instant. On the exact same day it appeared, the artwork was covered up by a massive metal sheet and fencing, and it was removed entirely shortly after.
Just completely scrubbed.
But I look at that and wonder, when a government immediately covers up a Banksy piece about justice and censorship, aren't they unwittingly participating in a performance art piece? Doesn't the physical act of erasing the art actually complete the artist's point?
Oh, I think it turns the government into an unwilling collaborator. By violently reacting to an image about judicial suppression, the state provides the final brushstroke.
They validate the critique in real time.
Exactly. It showcases the enduring power of placing an unsanctioned image in the public sphere. The reaction to street art, whether it's covered by metal fencing or sold for millions, is always the second half of the artwork.
And he clearly isn't intimidated. Just months ago, in December 2025, he was back at it, putting up a mural of stargazing children in Bayswater.
It just proves that despite the auction records, the trademark tribunals, and the global fame, his core methodology hasn't really changed. The stencil, the cover of night, and the public wall remain his primary tools for forcing a conversation.
So we've traced this unbelievable arc for you today. A guy hiding under a rubbish lorry in Bristol realizes stencils are faster. He uses that speed to evade the police and build a subversive underground myth.
Right.
He infiltrates the British Museum, culture jams Paris Hilton, shreds a million-pound painting in front of the global elite, fights trademark courts over his own anonymity, and leaves his mark on war zones from Gaza to Ukraine.
And yet, through all of that noise, he remains entirely defined by an absence.
Yeah.
We spent decades analyzing his market impact, his legal battles, and his politics. But society has spent just as long obsessing over the fundamental question, who is Banksy?
Always back to the identity.
Always. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought to mull over on your own today. We know his anonymity functions as a mirror. It forces us to look at the absurdities of our art markets, our property laws, and our institutions.
Right.
But what would happen to the value and the power of that mirror if he ever actually took off the mask? If we finally got the definitive answer to who he is, would the magic instantly die?
It all comes back to the signature, doesn't it? As long as the canvas is unsigned, it belongs to everyone and no one. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.